Very good. So, well, I might just ask Benedict. I mean, you eloquently explained how you might implement BIM, sort of at the company level, and what are the key things to consider. But if we could take it a step higher, I mean, as an industry, we really need, well, I believe we need something like this. And if you were advising an entity like the construction industry of Ireland as an entity, to how to best get onto the road to BIM implementation, sort of at that higher level. I mean, what are the key pillars that you believe we need to get in place in Ireland to ensure that we successfully do this?
I mean, it's very complex.
Yeah,
it's a very complex question, but I think the key thing is collaboration, and I don't mean we're just working together, because you all do that now. I mean really going and talking to each other about the synergies that you can develop. So look, at the moment, the drivers are that we have to bring cost of building down, or we're not going to be building. So what are the things that we can do? Contractors are targeting moving, I think it's 70% off-site now.
Well, Langerock.
Yeah.
Langerock is, yeah.
Yeah, 70% off-site. So, look at what those drivers might be. Go and really, as an architect, I think the answer would be to go and talk, try and make some contacts with the contractors and say, right, why don't we develop a system? Talk to the suppliers, talk to the supply chain, get them all involved, work out how you can drive the costs down, and produce a better project, a better product for your client, which is actually what it's all about.
I mean, there's been a lot of comments, and I'm talking to people, that the reason why they haven't implemented BIM is because they haven't been asked to do it. I mean, does it need a higher level? Does it need people in government to know that this exists? And
I think that helps.
That
I think there's been a paucity of real knowledge on the client side about what it can offer them. I think that's starting to change. It will certainly help. I think bless them, a lot of the software manufacturers just have assumed that we'll produce stuff that will do the job, and the design teams, the consultants, will realise what it is and drive it themselves, and that clearly hasn't happened. Everybody is so busy doing their work and trying to make a living that they don't tend to think about these things. Maybe in the current situation we all have more of a chance to take a little step back and really think about the transformational change that this really will mean. Quite what it means, I don't think any of us really know yet, but it is going to bring a lot of change, and it is going to happen because it offers too much benefit.
Yeah.
And it's happened in other industries.
Absolutely. So I'd like to open it up to the floor. If anyone has questions for the panel, if you just maybe give your name and your sector, and who you want to address the question to.
I'll address this question to the panel. Somebody might like to take it on. Malachi Matthews is my name, and I'm the BIM and Computer Design Applications module leader in the College of Technology and DIT, and particularly in the Department of Architectural Technology. Just to reiterate what Jim was saying earlier on in regards to how the College of Engineering and Built Environment in DIT has embraced BIM. One of the particular areas in architectural technology that I find incredibly exciting as to what our students are doing is in the area of research, in the area of predictive analysis, and in the area of performative architecture. And it's this area of performative architecture that I wanted to ask you about, and this new school of thought that is starting to develop in regards to the drivers for architecture being the performance of the building and performance of materials within the building. And I just wondered, have you come across this in your practice as being a driver for architecture, new architecture now, rather than perhaps going back to the traditional methods and using the digital design as being the driver for architecture?
The architects want to take that on?
Yeah, well, I suppose ourselves, it's like, I mean, I think the way forward is definitely, you're just going to design with the model. So, I mean, if I think back to when I was in university, I got a huge amount of flack at the time because I did all my work through computer, and I did my final thesis through computer. I didn't draw a line, and that was, at the time, that was kind of a complete no-no. You know, like, it was kind of cool to do a couple of things, but you can't be serious, was the attitude a little bit. As regards, so in terms of, like, I suppose how to look at it from within the university going forward, I mean, I think that you have to really look forward and push out the boundaries and get the students thinking, you know, in the right way, and not be kind of one or two steps behind where things are going. What else was there? There was so, like, the model, designing through a model is you know, definitely where it's going to go. It's going to, you know, develop over time, in my view, and you just need to keep that focus strong, and then the collaborative elements of it as well. But the thing to do is to really focus on the overall way of learning to use the new tools, the hardware and the software, and not get tied into one package or another, because that, in my time in university, when it came to computers, the argument was, well, what package are you using, or whatever, and that's irrelevant, because it's not about the technology, it's about the person and then the tools available. So that's, I suppose, if I was to give any advice, you know, that would be really the core element of it.
Do you have anything to add to that, James, in terms of new types of design?
To answer, or at least to respond to Malachi's question, it's a little bit peculiar because Malachi is in my school. So these are things we occasionally talk about from time to time. But I think it is very, very important that the full comprehension of what this means is understood by both educators and the industry. And this morning there has been, I think, quite a lot of clarity for anyone who may not have encountered BIM before, a lot of clarity as to what it actually means. And there is a misunderstanding out there that this is another expensive software package that may be useful or may not. In fact, it's a whole shift in thinking. And if we're not on board with that shift in thinking, we will have missed the boat.
Picking up on Benedict's point on collaboration, what's happening in the schools? Are the schools of architecture and engineering collaborating a lot more than they would previously? Oh, sorry. Okay, sorry. Okay.
I was just going to say exactly what you just said, which was a question back to the educators, which is, within the UK, I've been trying to encourage the schools, the different faculties, to work together. And if there was ever silo thinking, that's where I encountered it. So I'd be interested to know whether in Ireland you've managed to get the engineers and the QSs and the architects working together on projects.
I can answer that for you. In the architectural technology course, we've developed 3 modules, which are specifically for collaborative and cross-disciplinary projects amongst the architectural technologists, civil and structural engineers, the quantity surveyors, the spatial surveyors, and these kind of people. We've not only taken that, we've taken that a step forward. I'm chairing a working group within the College of Engineering and Built Environment in order to explore these particular areas. One of the initiatives we intend to take is to set up a database of models. You cannot collaborate unless you have a model, so you need to have a model to collaborate, and these models will be made available to the likes of the quantity surveyors, to the civil engineers, on which collaborative projects can actually be set. So within DIT, particularly in the College of Engineering and Built Environment, we are embracing this wholeheartedly and going at it. And the students that are coming out not only skilled in working the software, but it's the understanding of the technology and behind that. And when you say technology, it means to me, it's the bricks and mortar, it's the concrete, it's the steel, it's the glass. And I don't think you can fully create a proper BIM model unless you have a full understanding of how these elements come together. And the better the information goes into the model, the more information that the other stakeholders can draw out of it.
I might just add a short comment myself. As an architect, when I was at college, I mean, the focus was very much on aesthetic design and function of the building. And picking up what you were saying, I mean, there's a new level. I mean, I think owners are beginning to realize that the cost of operating a building is probably, they talk about 60 to 80% of the cost, of the total cost of the project. So, performance analysis of buildings, which actually can hardly happen without some of the tools that are available now, I mean, is critical to design. It is very much a design element, almost, well, I wouldn't say more important than aesthetics and function of the building, but very much in the owner's interest. So maybe take one more question. Is anybody else who? Yeah.
Trevor Woods, I'm a quantity surveyor. For my sins, I'm also an IT consultant, and I must really have sinned because I'm involved in the CITA Masters programme. Just a quick observation, we've done 4 modules on the course so far: e-business, BIM, collaboration, and we're in the middle of knowledge management. And the one thing that's come out of all 4 modules is that IT implementation in construction in particular it's people, process and technology. And the figures bandied about are that people and process represent 80% of the requirements to successfully implement new technologies. Technology is the small component, it's 20% of it. And other figures that we looked at in our BIM module, we looked at the NIST report that Tim referred to about the cost of interoperability. And just working through the figures in that report, the equivalent cost for the Irish industry in, I think it was 2009, was something like 500 million. On a output of the industry, it's fallen by so much. The cost of interoperability, using similar figures to the States, works out at 500 million. It's a huge, huge amount of money. Companies are trying to do more with less, and I think BIM is that tool to get you there. And just a quick question to James: how are you guys? Have you had contractors coming to you and asking you for the models, or do you make them available to contractors if they request them, or other consultants, or do you have particular issues with IP or legal issues or contractual issues?
I suppose we're definitely seeing more contact from contractors. Our experience of working with contractors is on one project we had done a model, but it wasn't a BIM project as such, but it was a BIM project for Arup. And once the contractor realised we had the model, he wanted it. So we gave him use of it just for visualisation purposes, but we didn't issue him a full model. But certainly in the last few years, and definitely in design and build projects, contractors are getting interested. Yes, so there's definitely more activity from contractors, and particularly the bigger guys that are interested in working outside Ireland. Because, outside Ireland, you really need to be, a contractor really needs to have a BIM team behind him. So, yes, would be the answer to your question.
Okay, we have come to the end of the session, and thank you, Ralph. My first task here, just to close the session, is to ask the presenters. Ralph, you may stay here, to ask Jim, James, Ben, Tim and Robert and Bernard and to come up here, and Alan is going to make a small presentation to them, and I would like to give them a round of applause.